Before I get into today's episode about Nick Chubb, I just want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. Of course, SeatGeek, you all know it, you all love it. It's the best place to get tickets to concerts, to just any events in general, but also sporting events like baseball games, football games, things of that nature. And if you use the promo code JKS, you'll save $20 off of your first purchase. That's the promo code JKS, $20 off of your first purchase. The link is in the description below if you're interested in it. Again, that's the promo code JKS. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. Okay, so I think it might be fair to say we all were a little bit premature in counting the Cleveland Browns out after just 3 games. I mean, they had a huge bounce back win in Game 4 to defeat their biggest rival for the division lead at this point, and now they're actually leading their division. Pretty crazy turnaround after last week when things were really looking like they were kind of a mess. And I also do have to say that one of my mistakes I think I've made so far this season was I've actually made 2 videos about the Browns already. Both of them were negative videos, which I do regret now that I'm thinking about it. And I don't think I was too negative in them. I did say in both of those videos that let's not overreact, the Browns still have a chance here, but at the same time, there's no real reason to only talk negatives about a certain team. So I actually had it in my head, okay, I'm not going to make another negative video about the Browns unless there's some huge storyline for the rest of the season, but then the very next week, they were able to show me exactly why I shouldn't just be making negative videos. They have some good players. I mean, of course, Baker Mayfield, he just went off. Maybe not necessarily in touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's not too crazy, but he had 342 yards in just 30 attempts, which for you math fans out there, that's over 10 yards per attempt. Pretty crazy. There also was Landry, who accounted for 167 of those yards, but honestly, in my opinion, the biggest playmaker for the Browns that game was Nick Chubb, who had 165 yards in just 20 carries. That gave him an average yards per carry of 8.2, and oh yeah, he had 3 touchdowns to go along with it. I mean, really just an all-around incredible performance by Nick Chubb, and so, without further ado, let's just jump into it. One interesting play is a play like this, where what's actually really going to be interesting is who's going to be blocking the interior lineman closest to the bottom half of the screen, because it's not going to be an offensive lineman, it's actually going to be the tight end right there who's going to move over and block him. The reasoning for this is because Cleveland then wants to be able to send 2 offensive linemen up to block those 2 Ravens right there, just to try to create some blocking in the second level and allow Nick Chubb to not just gain some yards, but potentially gain a ton of yards. Nick Chubb really is a home run hitter when it comes to being a halfback, so putting him in a situation where he can potentially get past the guys at the second level makes a lot of sense, because once you get him into open space, he can be gone, as you will see later in this video. However, something's going to go wrong here. I'm not sure if this is a miscommunication or what, but as you see right here, that Baltimore Raven is a lot farther to the bottom half of the screen than the offensive lineman right over there who's in charge of making sure that he blocks him. So for Chubb, this play didn't really work out as planned. He will still be able to move up to that second level since the offensive line did a pretty good job making their blocks. However, the downside is the offensive linemen who were in charge of blocking the second level didn't exactly do a perfect job there. There is going to be a Raven who can freely run over and try to make this play, and potentially even tackle Chubb for a loss if he does this well enough, just because he is free right now, he's not getting blocked, and they're kind of the same distance away from the line of scrimmage, and actually the Raven is a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage than Chubb is. But watch what Chubb's going to do here. He's going to just simply bounce to the outside, and he has the acceleration to get away with it, and they gain a solid gain on that one. I mean, that's a really good play by Chubb, actually. Usually I feel like guys get too excited when wanting to bounce to the outside, but that's not what Chubb did at all. Chubb did a very good job of really just picking his spot, realizing, oh hey, if I just run straight to the line of scrimmage where I'm supposed to run, then I'm going to essentially gain no yards. So instead, I'll bounce to the outside since I can, since there's no Raven in that area, and gain some yards that way. That's what he did, and they were able to gain some positive yards as opposed to potentially losing a yard. And on a 2nd down and 10, that's obviously huge because it creates a 3rd down and short situation as opposed to a 3rd down and long situation. So just those yards right there really do mean so much. I felt like he was doing that a lot, of just making good reads. You always love when a halfback can make a good read, and that really is what Chubb was doing all throughout this game. And this one will be another example, where it's a designed run to the top half of the screen, and so oftentimes what you will do in a designed run to the top half of the screen is not block the edge rusher who's on the bottom half of the screen. You leave him unblocked here, because then you can just have an extra blocker up at the top half of the screen, and that's the way it could work for Cleveland. However, one thing you're going to see right when this ball is snapped, again, is the second level that Baltimore is going to win on this play, where if you see those 2 Ravens right there, they're doing a very good job of clogging up any potential gaps and not allowing Chubb to get to the top half of the screen. So for Chubb, right when he takes the handoff, he just looks up and says, okay, there's a wall right here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't get through here, so what do I do now? And one thing you could do is just simply just put your head down and try to just run through, gain 2 yards or whatever, and then that'll be the end of the play. That's something that I actually typically recommend. It didn't work out too well this play. It happens, not a big deal. So sometimes you just gotta put your head down, try to gain 2 yards, and then live to see another play. Because Chubb could, of course, try to break it to the outside in the bottom half of the screen, but again, there's that unblocked Baltimore player who's right over there, so that's kind of a risky situation. But of course, Chubb is a risk taker, so he's gonna say, you know what, let's just see if I can get this to work. He's going to break to the bottom half of the screen, and as you see, there is contact. But what Chubb is going to do here is, if you look at his left hand actually isn't on the ball right now. He only has one arm on the ball, and his left arm is actually on that Baltimore Ravens left arm of his own. He's pushing his arm down, essentially, trying to break this tackle. Again, he's a home run hitter, he's an aggressive player. He doesn't want to just gain 3 or 4 yards, he wants to gain the touchdown here. And you know what? Because he is so talented, he is going to break that tackle and then be able to run into the end zone for that touchdown. So you could potentially make the argument that that was a bad play. I mean, you could say, you know what, yes, it worked out, but you don't want to be taking those risks. Just get the 3 or 4 yards and then live to see another play. However, I would not make that argument, even though against some other backs, I wouldn't make that argument, just because Chubb is such a great home run hitter. I mean, if you have a baseball player who's great at hitting home runs, don't try to make him a contact hitter. Well, Chubb is a home run hitter, so don't try to make him a contact hitter. There's also this play, which is another smart play I thought by Chubb, where what's going to happen is that those 2 Cleveland Browns right there are simply just going to block the 2 Ravens right in front of them, so that's not anything too fancy. Although worth mentioning, there is another Baltimore player on the bottom half of the screen, so you might be thinking, okay, who's going to block him? And the answer to that is actually going to be the left guard is going to pull over and block him. But after all that, there still is one other Baltimore player in the area, and it's going to be that Baltimore player right there, since of course this is going to be run to the bottom half of the screen, so that's really the last guy you have to worry about if you are Cleveland. And so for Cleveland, they like this play because there's 3 1-1 matchup, so as long as all those guys make their blocks, then the fullback can take out the other Raven in the area, and Chubb can simply just follow him into the end zone for a touchdown. But it's not always that simple. Like, after the ball is snapped, one thing you will notice is that, again, the guy who potentially could make a play right here, he's doing a pretty good job of trying to clog up a hole and potentially try to run through and get to Chubb here. You can't let Chubb run to you, because then you'd be in the end zone for a touchdown. That's not a good situation, you don't want that. And so while Chubb's fullback in front of him is looking to make a block, Chubb has another idea. He's going to fake as though he's falling to fullback, but instead break down to the bottom half of the screen. Again, that's the kind of thing where a lot of people would say that's a bad idea, but he likes it for 2 reasons. One of which is that he just doesn't want to have to try to squeeze through a gap that already has a Raven and a fullback already in there. The gaps are already so small, so trying to squeeze through 2 people in a gap, that can just sometimes be tough. But the other reason is because if you look at this angle right here, I mean, he's running to the bottom half of the screen, and there's 2 Ravens who could potentially make a play, but the problem is Chubb can run to the bottom half of the screen as much as he wants here. So while they're both going to try to make this tackle, as you see, it's just too easy for Chubb to break to the bottom half of the screen and get into the end zone for a touchdown, just because of momentum. The only way you're really going to stop Chubb is if you hit him dead on. You're not going to be able to stop him at an angle like that, just at least not right immediately. They tried their best, but Chubb was able to get into the end zone for a touchdown. That's really, in a lot of ways, just what Chubb does. He has faith in his abilities, and he's not afraid to try something a little bit different, try something that might cost them a couple of yards on a few plays, because it will gain them a ton of yards on most of these plays. I mean, if you look through his highlights, a good percentage of them are him not exactly doing what you're supposed to do on the play. But you know what? It's better to gain a bunch of yards not doing what you're supposed to do than gain a little bit of yards doing what you're supposed to do. And there's going to be no better example than this play, which this was the play of the game in my opinion. I mean, Baltimore had just scored a touchdown, so now it's a 6-point game. They went for 2, so now they're only down 6 as opposed to 7. So this is a huge situation. If they give Baltimore the ball back, the way that they have momentum on their side, there's a very real chance they go down the field, get a touchdown, and take the lead. There's a very real chance that happens. So for Cleveland, they need a spark of something here, and they are absolutely going to get it. What Cleveland is going to do here on this play is they're going to have their center and their left guard just go out right over there. They're going to swing over to the bottom half of the screen to lead block for Chubb, as he will be running also to the bottom half of the screen. It's a pretty simple play. Hopefully it'll gain some yards, and they are using Chubb in a situation where it can help Chubb, since he does like those home run type plays. He is good in open space, and this is giving him a situation where he could get into open space. But one thing very interesting that you will notice is that basically take a look at that Baltimore Raven right there. That's Ravens safety Tony Jefferson, and he's reading this play out very quickly. He's looking over and he says, okay, I know what this is happening here. He looks over and says, okay, I know what's happening here. It's a run to the bottom half of the screen. They're even swinging some offensive linemen over, so I gotta run over and try to disrupt this play as soon as possible. And so for Chubb, he has a couple of options here. Again, what I would recommend for most average running backs is just still run to the bottom half of the screen, put your head down. If Jefferson gets there, you're still a halfback. You can try to run over him, gain 4 or 5 yards. Maybe nothing crazy, but at least you got the 4 or 5 yards. However, he kind of looks up and realizes that there is going to be a gap in the middle of the screen. Now, in fairness, there is also a Raven in that area, so it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you run to the bottom half of the screen, a Raven can run over and tackle you. But if you mix things up and run to the middle of the screen, then also a Raven can tackle you, and you're putting yourself in a situation where potentially someone who just doesn't realize what they're supposed to be doing accidentally holds or something. Just things can go wrong. However, there's one reason he is going to run through the middle, because he feels as though he can outrun the Raven who's on the middle of the screen a lot quicker than he can outrun the guy who's on the bottom half of the screen, Tony Jefferson, since Jefferson is already running over to the bottom half of the screen. And for good reason. Watch how he accelerates, and I mean, that's just insane speed right there. Can you believe that? I mean, that's unbelievable. That's video game speed right there. That's ridiculous. What are you even supposed to do about that situation if you're Baltimore? You kind of just say, okay, well, we'll get you next time, I guess, because no way were we stopping you on that one. Chubb just, that's insane. One last play. This actually isn't even going to be a running play. It's going to be a passing play, but it's a screen pass, so it still heavily involves Chubb. And the way it's going to work for Cleveland is there are 3 offensive linemen on the top half of the screen, all go out the block right over there. And then for Chubb, he just simply runs underneath them, and then they will lead block for him. He tries to gain some yards. Pretty simple. However, one problem is going to happen right when this ball is snapped. A Baltimore Raven defender reads this play out quickly and is right near Chubb. Granted, it's the 345-pound Michael Pierce, who's not exactly a speed demon by any means, but he's still a guy who could potentially make a tackle, so Chubb is going to have to make sure he outruns him here. And it's also interesting because not only will he have to make sure he's outrunning a guy who's right next to him, but he's going to have to catch the ball as well. So there's several things going on right here, and this could end up being a loss of yards. However, he has the acceleration to get past them, and at that point he just goes away from his blockers because he just has to try to gain some yards, and he does gain a solid gain on that one. And at that point, he just has to run away from his blockers because he just has to try to gain some yards, and he does. He gets the first down. As much as you probably would have liked to just follow his lead blockers in front of him, you couldn't do that because he had to go as quick as possible since there was someone right behind him. So good awareness by Chubb, really good awareness by all of these plays, really. Chubb was playing really well out there. Not only is he just a tremendous physical player, but he's also a smart guy. And so when you add those two things together, and Cleveland really made him a significant part of this playbook, I mean, he's doing really well for Cleveland. And this is kind of what I talked about with my last video. They're making things easier on Baker Mayfield, and one of the ways to do that is by having such a talented guy in Nick Chubb. And also, Baker just played really well, but either way. So yeah, that's what I thought of Nick Chubb from the division-leading Cleveland Browns. Boy, does that sound weird to say. What did you guys think of Nick Chubb, and what do you guys think of the Cleveland Browns beating the Ravens? I mean, that's just amazing, really, right? Maybe amazing is too strong of a word, but I was certainly surprised. I really thought Baltimore was going to win, but you know what? You gotta love the NFL, and you gotta love how it surprises you. So congratulations to the Browns for now. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.